Hello, fake footballers. Welcome to draft video number 1. My name is Greg Smith. I'll be your host this time around. And today we're drafting on Yahoo. We've got a standard setup here. The only caveat is that I've added a flex spot, which could be a wide receiver, running back, or a tight end. And we're going to dive in head first here. This is my first draft of the season, I suppose, is what we'll call it. And I hope to learn as much as I can teach during this draft because I've been pretty focused on fantasy baseball for the most part. With that said, I've landed the 10th pick here, and my general strategy, at least to start out for fantasy football this year, is to take the best commodity available because there are a lot of very deep positions. Quarterback is super deep. Tight end is very deep. Wide receiver is very deep. Running backs, not so much. But there are values to be had later in the draft, and we will do our best to attain those values. And coming up, 2 picks left before I'm up here. The first few picks were Adrian Peterson, Doug Martin, Arian Foster, CJ Spiller, Jamal Charles, Alfred Morris, and LaShawn McCoy. I can't really argue with any of those picks. I probably would have taken McCoy ahead of Morris. And I have Charles ranked, I think, 3rd in my own rankings. To help us out, today we're going to use this handy fake football preseason rankings. These are staff rankings. Chet Gresham, myself, Jeff Brubach, and Neil Parker have all compiled our rankings to come up with one big list. I urge you to check this out on thefakefootball.com. And let us know what you think in the comments. Calvin Johnson and Ray Rice were just selected before it was my turn. And I'm stuck here looking at Marshawn Lynch for the 10th pick. That doesn't seem all that bad. He's definitely got a lot going for him. Luckily, this is not a PPR league, so I don't have to worry about his lack of receptions or receiving yards. But we're going to add him to the roster here and see who comes back around the wheel. I do think that running back in the first round is pretty much guaranteed for 9 of the 10 or 12 picks, depending upon what your league setup is like. If you play in a 2-quarterback league, that obviously changes a lot because the quarterback position becomes much more valuable. But in a league like this with only 1 QB, I can't imagine taking any non-running back besides Calvin Johnson in the first round, and I might have taken him if he had fallen to me there. I do like having, like I said, kind of elite talent and producers above having the best running backs, say, or, the best quarterback. And there are a lot of quarterbacks who will produce at an elite level this year. Going around the horn, Trent Richardson, AJ Green, Des Bryant, and Brandon Marshall were selected. So the top of the fake football running back ranks right now is Steven Jackson. I am not a Steven Jackson fan per se, so I'm looking more at a wide receiver here, and the best one available, according to our rankings, is Julio Jones. Yep, and that's who Yahoo has at the top. Running backs, you're looking at Matt Forte, Maurice Jones-Drew. Steven Jackson is our top, but I'm going to take Matt Forte here. With the extra flex spot, getting my second running back right away makes me feel a lot better about the position because I do want to fill that wide receiver, running back, tight end flex with a 3rd running back. So yeah, Matt Forte is going to join the team here, and I'm going to pause for a brief moment. For you, it'll be many picks for me, and we'll be back with round 3 and round 4 in just a moment. Okay, the 3rd round has just started here, and to round out the 2nd round, after I took Forte, Maurice Jones-Drew, Julio Jones, Jimmy Graham, Steven Jackson, Demaryius Thomas, Stephen Ridley, Chris Johnson, DeMarco Murray, and Reggie Bush were selected. David Wilson just led off the 1st round. That's an interesting pick. I don't know if I'd speculate on him this early, but again, like I said, I'm just trying to learn as much as I'm trying to impart fantasy knowledge this go around because it is early for me in the draft season. The pick that I thought was most interesting there was Jimmy Graham at 18 overall, and he is a guy who, like Calvin Johnson, provides elite talent at a very not elite position, I guess we'll call it, in tight end. And I don't know if I would take him in the second round, but I can't fault anybody else for making that pick, especially if you have an idea of values you want to get at running back and at wide receiver later in the draft. So coming up on my third pick here with Forte and Lynch already on my roster, running back is less of a priority, but that doesn't necessarily mean I won't take a running back with this pick. I'm probably going to pounce on a wide receiver here. If Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees is available at number 34 overall, I will definitely have to consider taking a quarterback here. I do like the thought of waiting on QB in general in a league that only starts one quarterback. I have a feeling Rodgers will be gone by the time he gets to me, so I won't have to make that decision. And with that said, let's start looking at the wide receivers who are available. On Yahoo, the top-ranked wide receivers are Victor Cruz, Roddy White, Percy Harvin, Andre Johnson, and Vincent Jackson. If we look at the fake football rankings over here, we've got Andre Johnson, then Cobb, then Harvin, then Roddy White, then Vincent Jackson, then Victor Cruz. So there's a lot of kind of variation, not only between the Yahoo rankings and our staff rankings, but also just between the rankers themselves that compile the composite. I'm much higher on Randall Cobb than everyone else, except for Mr. Bruach here. He's got Cobb at his 7th overall wide receiver. He's my 5th overall receiver. I expect him to do big things this year. I might be a little too high, who knows, but I'm going to put my money where my mouth is if it comes down to the pick here where I want a wide receiver. If Cobb's the guy available, that's who I'm taking. Of course, as soon as I opened my mouth, Randall Cobb was selected. After the David Wilson pick to lead off the round, Cobb was selected, then Larry Fitzgerald, then Drew Brees, then Aaron Rodgers. So as suspected, the top QBs are off the board. The top wide receivers from our rankings are gone. Andre Johnson is the one we have rated highest as a staff, and I have him 10. I have Percy Harvin rated higher, and Harvin is available. Roddy White also available, but he's below Johnson in my estimation. We've got 2 picks left here before it's my turn to draft. And after Rodgers, Frank Gore, and Percy Harvin were selected, there goes Cam Newton. One more pick before we're up here. I'm looking at guys like Andre Johnson, Vincent Jackson, Roddy White. Quarterbacks are Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. And just for grins, let's look at what running backs are available here. Darren McFadden, Le'Veon Bell, Ryan Matthews, Monty Ball, Lamar Miller. I'm not taking any of those guys here, although McFadden is tempting. I have a history of selecting injury-prone players. My friends will tell you that much. And so yeah, I think Andre Johnson's the pick for me here. I don't mind at all getting him in the 3rd round. He's my number 10 wide receiver overall, which feels pretty good at this pick, which is 39. The only other guy I'd consider is maybe Roddy White, but we're going to stick with not only my own rankings, but the staff rankings here. We're going to take Andre. We'll see what happens with these guys on the turn and make another pick in just a minute. In general, the wide receivers at this point are all pretty close in value. I wouldn't have minded taking Roddy White there either, and if I were to do another draft from the 10 spot in an hour and had the same choice to make, I might take Roddy White and kind of diversify my fantasy stock portfolio, as it were. Sometimes when you play in a lot of different leagues, it's good to take different players so that if you're all in on one guy and that guy gets hurt, it doesn't crush your entire fantasy season for every league. With that said, if you go all in every league on the same guy and you strike gold with that player, that's there's no better feeling, I'll tell you that. So, all right, the 4 players selected there were Roddy White, Peyton Manning, Darren McFadden, and Vincent Jackson. I'm still not going to take a quarterback here. I could take Brady or Kaepernick, or I think Cam Newton was selected, right? Yeah, Cam Newton's gone. So I'm going to wait on QB until at least next round. I don't mind giving up this style or this tier of quarterback and banking on someone like Tony Romo, Andrew Luck, even Eli Manning or Roethlisberger or Vic. Vic is really risky, so I'm not super sold on him. With that said, I'm probably just going to take a wide receiver here. Jordy Nelson is the highest Yahoo ranked wide receiver, and in our rankings, he is also the highest ranked wide receiver. Marquez Colston is next, and I've got Jordy significantly higher. I expect a bit of a bounce back from Nelson this season. I do like Cobb a lot. I just like the Packers offense a lot, and you can't really gauge what Nelson did last year and apply that to this upcoming season, because if Nelson's healthy and if Cobb is demanding more attention, then Rodgers is going to be able to find Nelson on more open routes. So we're going to select him here, and we'll start to look at a third running back and quarterback in round number 5. I will rejoin you in just a moment. We're back for round 5. Rounding up the 4th round after the Jordy Nelson pick were Reggie Wayne, Marquez Colston, Colin Kaepernick, Dwayne Bowe, Torrey Smith, Danny Amendola, Tom Brady, Hakeem Nicks, and Wes Welker. Interesting seeing Kaepernick go ahead of Brady, but it's not something that I disagree with necessarily. I have Kaepernick ranked 6 and Brady ranked 4. I mean, that's close enough in my estimation to justify. I mean, if you're really all in on a running quarterback, it's a shame that he lost Michael Crabtree, because Crabtree not only was coming into his own as a wide receiver, but he provided Kaepernick with a lot of, firepower on offense. And it'll be interesting to see how Kaepernick and how Harbaugh adjust to that in this season. After Welker was taken in the 6th round here, Pierre Garçon, Matt Ryan, and Monty Ball were taken. There are 5 picks before I came up, because Le'Veon Bell was just taken. And I'm still not looking at quarterbacks very hard, because the difference between Russell Wilson, Matt Stafford, Robert Griffin III, and Andrew Luck, and even Tony Romo are they're all pretty interchangeable to me. So with this first pick of these kind of 2 back-to-backs, essentially, I'll probably lean towards a position other than QB. So I'm looking at the top flex players, essentially, because I've got 2 wide receivers, I've got 2 running backs. I can start considering a tight end here, and I've got my eye on Aaron Hernandez. We talked about how I liked the Jimmy Graham pick in the 2nd round. I like Aaron Hernandez here in the 5th round much more than that, just as a solid value. After Bell was taken, Lamar Miller, Rob Gronkowski, Russell Wilson, and Ryan Matthews were selected. 1 pick left here before it gets to me, and it was Matthew Stafford. So let's take one more look at the QBs still available. RG3, Luck, Romo, Manning, Roethlisberger. That's the top of the Yahoo rankings. Pretty much the top of my quarterback rankings at this point as well. Tight ends, Aaron Hernandez, to me, especially with the Gronkowski injury, is kind of head and shoulders above the rest, and he's an easy pick for me here. I'll double check the running backs to see if there's anybody I really like ahead of him. Sproles is an interesting name, so is Chris Ivory, and Eddie Lacy, the Green Bay rookie, has some appeal, but I'm going to jump on Hernandez here, and we'll worry about running backs and quarterbacks with my next pick right after this. All right, it's back to me, and since my last pick, the 4 picks in between were Mike Wallace, Eric Decker, Tony Gonzalez, and RG3. Quarterbacks available: Luck, Romo, Manning, Roethlisberger, Vic, Flacco. If I wait a whole lot longer here, I'm not going to see many of them, but of the teams picking after me here, between me and my next pick, it appears that only one of them two of them don't have QBs. So I'm assuming that none of these teams are going to start taking backup quarterbacks yet, and between Luck, Romo, Manning, and Roethlisberger, I feel like I can wait until next round to get that first QB. So I'm going to look at running backs and wide receivers. And Darren Sproles is the name that is jumping off the page at me here. He is my... Where do I have him? I have him ranked as my 17th running back. Our composite ranking is 20, and he is ahead of everyone else who would otherwise be available, and ahead of a lot of guys who were taken already, including David Wilson, Le'Veon Bell, Lamar Miller. So I'm going to take Sproles here, and we'll look at QBs and third wide receivers with my next pick.